So the concept of mujahadatun nafs, to be battling with yourself, this is referring to the struggle between the soul and the heart and the mind and the ego and the wants of the body. So this is the struggle that the believer is engaging in, and the core element of that is sabr. Sabr is habsun nafs anil makruh, to control oneself or hold oneself back against something that it doesn't want to cause problems for it. So sabr for us is three things. The first thing is to realize in this limited life that we have, we need to stay consistently committed in our devotion. And so there will come things, that opportunities and desires about enjoying this and doing that and doing this. So we have to keep up with the obligations of Islam. And we have to put ourselves forth to do extra acts of worship that are not an obligation, to truly be in a longing, yearning relationship with Allah. And so the next thing is that we will have desires, that we would like to do things and we feel attracted to things, and we know that that is sinful, that has been prohibited in the revelation. So we have to control ourselves from falling into that. And then third is to recognize that the things that are happening in the world are not under our control. We don't have authority over anything but our own intentions and our own actions. And so this is the beginning. So Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, he talked about sabr, and he says, هو خلق فاضل من أخلاق النفس يمتنع به من فعل ما لا يحسن ولا يجمل وهو قوة وقوى النفس التي بها صلاح شأنها وقوام أمرها. So he's saying that this type of quality of character is something that's going to prevent one from doing an action that they know is going to not look good, it won't be nice, it won't bring any value to anyone, and it's going to be problematic. And so this is a strength that you have to work at and develop within yourself to be able to fulfill this huge responsibility of life that we have. So sabr thabatun أو ثبات بعث العقل والدين في مقابل بعث الهوى والشهوة. So he's saying that it's the type of firm resolve that controls that which is basically coming out of us from intellect based upon knowledge of religion. So we are thinking, okay, how am I going to live according to Islam, and how am I going to maintain that, versus these kind of urges to do things that are based on ego or desire, that I have to stop from doing that. And so mujahadatun nafs is basically being mindful about sabr. It's realizing that we live in a body that wants for itself something of the earth, and we are souls that are wanting to go back to heaven where we were created. وَجَاهِدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ. So the scholars, they said, so Ibn al-Mubarak, he said about the ayah, the famous scholar Abdullah ibn Mubarak, he said, حَقَّ جِهَادِ أي مُجَاهَدَةُ النَّفْسِ وَالْهَوَى. So he's saying that you should, because this is in Surah Al-Hajj, right? And even though Surah Hajj has one of those rare surahs that has some Mekki and some Madani in it, they're saying that the key point for any believer before they succeed at anything is to first win this battle against themselves. Otherwise, the enemies from outside will easily get the best of them. Because they're not used to fighting a battle against that which puts them in an uncomfortable situation, that which tries to overcome the comforts of the body with the comforts of eternity, the long-term comforts. That's what got akhirah versus dunya. Dunu is something close, akhir is far. So you have to see the big picture in spirituality and not get caught up in the attractions of the immediate gratifications. So he says, هُوَ اجْتَبَاكُمْ وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. So He has blessed you with this message, and now you are the carriers of it. He would not cause for you any hardship in this religion. So if you're thinking something that's clearly taught in the religion, that's a hardship, then you are not paying attention to what the religion is saying. Because nothing will be hard on anybody. There are certain exceptions that he has identified, and certain things that happen that we have to address with these legislations of exceptions to the rule. So he says at the end here, he says, talking about الَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا, at the end of Surah Al-Ankabut. those who struggled in our cause, we will guide them to our many paths. So not everybody has the strength of every path. And some people only have, certain strengths that they're good at, and they have many weaknesses. So Allah will open up the doors to show each person that's struggling in his cause, how can I add more value into my path to Jannah? How can I diversify my portfolio in trying to go to my spiritual worth, right? Like some people are investing in this and that. Some people stay in one thing, but that's why, what is it? The big S&P 500? What is that? So that's what it was, the guy, Berkshire Hathaway, what's this guy? Warren Buffett. Yeah, he put whatever, a few $1 million back in 1950, and he put that thing together. And then by the time 1980 came around, this guy had tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and everybody's now following that. Because what he did was he found many very generally well-to-do investments, and he put a little bit in each one. That way, if one had a hard time, the other ones will always make far. So that's what subulana. That is what he's saying. There are many paths that if you struggle, so you seek the knowledge, and then you begin to create the habits and the practice of increasing in your worship and your character, in your promotion of right and forbidding of wrong, in your understanding of all of the different elements of Islam. So then he's telling us that الَّذِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ بِمَا يَعْلَمُونَ يَهْدِيهِمُ اللَّهُ لِمَا لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. So he says, the people who learn things, if they're truly in jihad, then they're acting on what they learn. So there's many people who can go around quoting ayahs and hadith, and then you look into their life and you're thinking, but this person really doesn't reflect any much of that in their life at all. It's just empty words. So that's not jihad. It's easy to memorize, right? Who is Imam Shafi'i? He says, لَيْسَ الْعِلْمِ بِمَا حُفِظ. He says, الْعِلْمِ بِمَا عُلِمْ وَعُمِلْ بِهِ. Right? Yeah. So it's not what you memorized. It's what you knew and followed and did. That's the value of knowledge. And so وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامِهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى. So you're fearing as a regular state of being that I'm going to stand in front of him on the Day of Judgment. And when you have these desires, you're able to stop yourself. See, a lot of people are not able to stop themselves. Or if they did do it, then they're not feeling guilty. They'll fight it till the end based on wanting their nafs to survive, wanting their nafs to get what it wants. And this is the danger of Allah. So the Prophet ﷺ, I'll just conclude, there's a few more points here, but when the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Mujahid man jahada nafsa, because we know that this, what we call martaba, this level of, the peak of Islam, is to put your life on the line and to be willing to die, and then if you died, trying to save other people or to preserve their rights, this is the highest form of sacrifice, this is martyrdom. But the Prophet ﷺ, he's actually, the wisdom of this is he's teaching people, of course you would never be wanting to do that, where you go die in a battlefield or die saving someone from an attacker, right? Unless first you are attacking yourself. Because it's yourself you're willing to give up, your nafs, right? So you have to be on that path till you'll reach a situation where you would be willing, Very rare, like many things, terrible things happen, very few people willing to go jump in front and to try to solve that thing, And of course here in America, I'm going to reiterate this point because it's come to me many times. It is, I would say, it's very easily to make the fatwa. It's haram to join the American military because there is no just war coming from America. I don't know when's the last just war. They're doing all unjust wars, and then once you get into it, you're forced, like all of them coming down with PTSD because they signed up for free college and some, discipline and getting out of prison sentences and all that. And then they send them over. They're like, man, we're doing crazy stuff here. We're murdering people for no reason. I said, but you can't get, then once you're in that, it's no longer freedom. You're no longer part of the Bill of Rights and all that. You have to do it, right? So I would say here, there's no just war. I don't know whoever fought a just war in the recent times at all, right? So in that case, we have to be willing to, if we see somebody being threatened, we have to be willing to go save that person. But you would never get to that place unless first you stopped yourself from your desires of the stomach, of the sexual nature, of the anger problems. If you can't stop yourself from those things, you would never be willing to give your life for anyone else because you're not in control of yourself. This self is in control of you as a soul. And so that's where the angels are by default doing what they're programmed to do. And the animals are by default, but they're doing things that, are of a lower, a base thing. So for us, we're trying to, by choice, become better than angels by choosing to put Allah before everything else in our actions, which no animal could do because they don't have a choice either. But what we do is we find ourselves becoming smart animals. You know, this is what America has got, a full of smart animals. Now there's people saying that they're animals. The kids are now going to school saying they're a wolf and a dog and things like this. Now this is what's happening. So this is without spirituality. So may Allah give us the victory over ourselves so that we have the eternal victory in Jannah, inshallah.